What's up, family? Welcome back to the channel. I am Thatbaldbrutha. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Today I want to talk about black men and therapy. There's been a lot of conversation lately I'm seeing on YouTube where people are discussing the fact that therapy is something that is a very important tool to use, and that as black people, men and women, we often, more so men than women, I think, don't take therapy very seriously and kind of brush it off as being a white man, the white person's thing. Personally, I can attest to the fact that it is very helpful to have someone to kind of talk to and that can somewhat relate to some of the problems you're dealing with. Today we're going to be checking out, shout out to Black Love Roundtable, men's discussion going on that I came across, and I want to hear what they got to say. So let's check it out.
My wife and I did premarital counseling.
And that was in the church as well, or outside?
Through the church, and also outside.
Oh, you had two different.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe in continuing therapy, just
Okay.
because, when it comes to communication in marriage, it's a multi-layered thing. It's not just you expressing what's on your mind and your wife is going to receive it. No,
Right.
it's multi-layered. So the value to me when I would go is to have a person that can be objective and hear what I'm saying without
word.
any emotions attached to it, and just articulate it so that my wife could receive it. Because sometimes ego would change my delivery. Like, you should be understanding what I'm saying. And now I'm having a condescending tone and my wife is completely shut down.
Right.
Yeah, that's facts. I haven't been married before. That I experienced that firsthand. When you try to make a point, it's everything's in the delivery. I think a lot of times that, in those situations, we always want to be right. We always think or believe that our position is the correct position, and we're not really always open to hear the other person's argument. We're hearing them, but we're not listening. The difference. And I can speak to quite a few occasions where I was just trying to be heard and not really wanted to hear. And to my detriment, of course. But yeah, that's a fact. Communication is key, is big, big, big. And I feel like that's really one of the biggest problems that we as black couples have in relationships, a lack thereof, is proper communication. Because we're good at throwing jabs, we're good at kicking each other when we're down, but we're not always the best at listening when we should be doing more of that.
Yeah. So if anything, just to open up the lines of communication, that was the value that, the mediator, I would say, was able to provide.
Yeah. Does it work? I mean, did it?
If I heard him right, he's continuing.
Yeah.
Yes,
go.
I think it's not you go once and then your issues are solved. It's a continuing thing. Like marriage, just like anything else, like acting or whatever, you're pursuing.
Keep practicing.
You're always in classes. You're always taking new hashtags.
Yeah, it's never one and done. You got to go and keep going. I think it's once you go the first time, it's a little weird at first to sit down and tell a complete stranger your business, but it's just I can't speak highly enough about how relieving it is to get that off your chest and be able to process. Because sometimes hearing yourself talk about stuff to somebody else, you kind of realize or hear yourself say something like, I guess I didn't think of it that way. And they are able to offer an objective viewpoint, which can kind of get you to kind of see things a bit differently. There's a lot of introspection that goes on when you go through therapy. It's a very good opportunity for you to look at yourself, stand outside and see mistakes you've made, and really face the accountability that's required for that self-growth.
So when I was in my relationship, we had hit like a real rocky patch, and going to therapy every week, when we would talk about our problems and issues, it would just add another layer of that, because now I feel like I'm being attacked. So then I'm in defense mode. So now I'm attacking her.
Yep.
So now we're just having this bubble's just getting bigger and bigger. But now we talk to someone with an objective perspective that doesn't have any bias. It's not her friends, it's not my friends.
Yep.
This is an individual who's literally just talking to what they see that's in front of them, what you're delivering. Meaning you have to deliver the honest truth. To your friends, you may not do that all the time.
Yep.
But to a complete stranger, if you go into it with an open mind, that person cannot harm you. He has nothing on you, or she has nothing on you. This is a free place to speak openly and free. And once that hour and a half is over, you wipe your hands and you can go to another therapist. You never have to see this person again.
Yeah.
But if I had that hour and a half with you, I'm going to see you Saturday at the table. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it allows that freedom, and it allows that outlet to properly communicate with your partner from a different perspective, from an outside perspective that really cannot harm or deviate to lean toward one side versus the other.
Well, that's what therapy's supposed to do. Doesn't always work out that way, especially in couples therapy, because there are occasions when one person may feel like the therapist is taking sides, which is something classically that happens. Yeah, when you go to a therapist, it's easier to be open and honest in a safe space if you're willing to do that. So you also have to have people that are involved that are willing to take that step and have that conversation, because it's very easy to come in there and be very defensive. You're instinctively defensive because no one's done anything wrong. There's something wrong with the relationship, but neither one of y'all want to admit that you're part of the problem. It's either her pointing at him or him pointing at her. No one's pointing at themselves. There's a lack of accountability in a great many relationships, and that's why they suffer so much, because everybody's quick to point the finger and say, oh, it's you. You did this, you're doing that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. When both people are actively in the relationship, the world's not happening to you. You both are involved. As the saying goes, it takes two to tango. So I think that people take for granted the accountability part of it. And that's where a lot of things go sideways. I know for myself, speaking from my own experience, I had a huge problem with accountability. Huge problem. I was very defensive whenever there was something going sideways. I was very quick to point the finger somewhere else other than at myself. I was great at playing the victim, great at it. And hindsight being what it is after the fact, yeah, you look back, you see, well, yeah, I started that fight. I added to that problem. I created that scenario. You often find through therapy, when you go back and review the relationships you had, the experiences you had with other people, you kind of get to see if you're open to the fact of owning that shit. You have to be open to it. That's another thing. You can't come in with the mind, I'm not going to come in here. You got to be ready to do the work. That's important, because if you're not ready to do the work, you're not going to make any progress. So going into those sessions, it took a few sessions, quite a few, for me to get out of my own way and be like, you know what, let's just stop. Let's see. And I feel like the more we look at ourselves, the easier it will be to improve and know that going into the next interpersonal interaction, you will have a better perspective going in and hopefully get a better outcome as a result. Because you didn't get this way overnight. So it's going to take a lot longer than one night or one session to get better. And because we're always evolving, you're constantly changing, and you are the culmination of your life experiences. It's a lot of unpacking. You got to be willing to do the work, to be honest with yourself, and be open and transparent and be vulnerable, which is very risky for a black man. Men in general, but black men especially.
I'm gonna tell you what would piss you off about therapy, though.
Right.
There'll be something that you've communicated to your wife 1,000 times.
Yeah,
And then it finally
And then it comes from this person, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I get that."
Yeah.
I'm like,
Bruh.
But sometimes it's
Isn't that the same way it is with everything though? Haven't you been told something, don't touch the stove all your life, and then some random person comes along one day and says, hey, you know that stove's gonna burn you, right? And you're like, oh shit, you're right. And you never touch another stove. That's just how it happens. It's funny. I can't tell you how many times I've been hearing advice from people, from family, friends, and then one weird person out of the blue that I have no concept or connection with just says it. It's just something about the way they may have said it, or at the moment I was in a place to receive it. When they said it, then it clicks. It's all about where you are. You know, you can be told all day, don't walk in front of that freight train, but until you're ready to receive that message, you're standing on that track every time.
it's not the person, like say if you're in a relationship, any of us,
Right.
or you married or whatever, and you know your significant other says, you know, where you been? Automatically you're like,
Why are you
You know,
questioning?
it's not, you may not respond that way, but automatically you get that energy like, okay, she's questioning me. She whatever I say, she probably won't believe
Right.
what the answer is.
And you create
But
that
if I say,
Losing regardless.
but if I say,
Losing regardless.
if I say, where you been?
Yeah.
Oh man, I just because it's not always the question. It's where the question is coming from. When it comes to therapy, for me, I have an aversion to going to someone who went to school and is getting paid to tell me what I should or should not be doing in whatever situation I'm in. I like to look for something. If I want to be a great mechanic, I'm going to watch a great mechanic.
Right.
So what I've learned to do, having the different varied examples of what a relationship is I come from a large family, so not to put any of my brothers and sisters' business out there, but we had some stuff going on.
Right.
And but what I feel that what I like that I find therapeutic is to find someone who's had more life experience than I have, and who is doing well the thing that I would like to do.
Right.
And so if I go to Mr. Williams, who lives next door, or Miss Johnson, who lives downstairs from my brother, and I see that they have a great relationship. I see the love, and I see the camaraderie and the cohesion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the
Example leads example, yeah.
I go say, hey, and just talk to them and say, I'm having problems with my girlfriend. If I'm having problems with a significant other that is my girlfriend or whatever, I'm going to go to a woman and say, hey, what's that about? I'm not going to go to my boy's dad.
Correct.
He don't know.
Correct.
He's not a woman. But I will.
That's another thing people talk about is how come a girl can't tell a guy about relationships? Well, who better? Because that's who you date. If you're dating women. I'll go back to what he said a minute ago about talking to people who have had experience, who appear to be having a good run of things. You have to remember that appearance could just be that. I know many a couple who on the outside look fantastic, but behind closed doors, they're actually having a very tumultuous relationship, but they just don't show it. I was in relationships where we put on a face to make sure that no one knew what was going on behind closed doors. Not successfully, but we tried it. But yeah, most couples try to keep the image of wholesome, decent appearances so they don't have to answer any questions. But behind closed doors, hell.
I'll go to my boy's mom, like my friends, after my mother passed away, a couple of my friends' mothers embraced me as their own son.
Sorry to hear that.
And they would say, hey, Mama, I got a question. Mama Faye or Mama Eunice. And I'd ask the question and say, baby, look. And when that black mama put their hands on you, listen, baby. You're getting it from a place where it's coming from experience and coming from love,
True.
not an office and a paycheck. To me, that is just for me. So I would prefer to go to someone that I've known for a while who is doing a great job, or doing well, the thing that I want to do or that I may want to do someday.
All right, respect. If you can find people like that, God bless you. Good luck. I find that family, and friends can be biased to some degree. Even parents, especially parents, they can be biased. Again, but if you're able to find someone who is genuine and is giving you heartfelt advice from and from an honest place, an objective place, then go with that. But I still find that even though someone's being paid to do a job, I think that if they're being paid to do a job, you find someone who does their job well.
Because it's one thing that I've learned is that you will never forget good advice. Because one day something's going to happen to you, and that thing that someone said to you years ago
Comes up. Yeah.
dang, and so it's still in there. You don't forget it. It's just in the recesses of your mind. So for me, going to therapy is more of a personal thing and it's not. I have never been to therapy, but it's therapeutic for me to go to someone who is, my elder. If I'm going to learn some life-changing stuff from someone, I would love to have that information come from someone who has more life experience than I do.
Wow.
Okay, respect.
I think it's probably. I haven't done therapy. I'm interested in therapy, but I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely having those folks in your community that have been successful in something that you've done. But I've had a business coach before, and that was therapy. I'm not sure if any of you guys had business coach, acting coaches, or what have you. Like that's therapy. And when someone is, I'm a big proponent of paying someone with a skill and a talent and expertise. Like photographer, videographer, what have you. I like to make sure that the right people who have that superpower get paid, and I want to receive that, secret sauce that they have.
Right.
So I am very interested in potentially having just like some type of therapy and just getting things off my chest and just figuring out like, does that feel good? And I think a lot of folks who, especially in like corporate America, your insurance can cover therapy. Or
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, you're making good money. You can
afford.
You can be just like, this is part of my health insurance. You
Right.
get the health insurance that have those type of things. And so I think us as people of color, it's something to think about. And like a question I had for you, I guess all three of you guys who have had therapy, what is a session like for people? Like, can you walk us through a session and what it feels like? Because I think it will help us.
I mean, it's relative to the person, because each therapist is different. That's the whole point of researching therapy or therapists and finding out which one works for you. There are some therapists that will coddle you. They'll sit there and tell you, "Oh, it's okay, you're doing great," and they'll tell you what you want to hear. There are others who are very direct, a little abrasive. They have no problem, no cut cards. And there are those that don't say anything. They just sit back and listen to you talk all day and don't say anything, and maybe every once in a while ask you a question or help to prod a thought, but they don't really say much. So it really depends on what type of therapist you're dealing with, what their practice is. B, it determines the session is depending on how open you are in that particular moment, because every moment's different. You could be having a bad day where you don't feel like talking today. You could be having a great day where you want to be a chatterbox. It all depends on your mood that day. It all depends on you. They're discussing couples therapy, so we'll stick with that. It all depends on both of y'all's moods that day. Are y'all both in a talkative space? Are you in a place where you want to have conversation, or are you just getting in the middle of an argument? So the flow of the session is dependent upon what's happening with you, the both of you by yourself, and what type of therapist you're dealing with. That's my experience. There is no textbook. I don't believe there's no way to break that down. They may try, but I think they're going to say it's going to be individual. It's based on the individual, which is the correct answer, because there really is no formula.
Yeah.
Understand.
It may change my mind.
Yeah, well, it'll help us.
doubt it.
I'll tell you this. Like coming from Oakland, therapy was not a thing that I heard of. Therapy was not a thing that was accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And in the black community, like it's if you do therapy, most of the time people won't even tell you. It's
Right.
like something that
It's a very big secret. Black folk don't talk about that kind of stuff because people, you know why? Because people make fun of it. People think it's a joke. They like clown you. You in therapy? What's wrong with you? What the fuck? People can't understand the concept of getting help. And I think that's also because as a race we've been charged with being very self-sufficient and getting through our own shit on our own. We've been left out here to figure things out for so long that to get help is a foreign concept, because there hasn't been much help. A lot of people, a lot would argue there hasn't been a lot of help for the black community for a long time, and we've had to learn to be self-sufficient. And therapy wasn't part of that self-sufficiency. And in many circles, it still isn't. Your grandfather and grandparents look at you like you're crazy. They never got therapy. You bust your ass and you work. Your therapy is getting through.
they feel it's like it's a
taboo,
burden, or
right?
it's a negative attribute to you as a person.
Yep.
But to be honest, to go to therapy and to have someone else give you an opinion, or just have someone else listen to you and provide their life experiences, or try to lead you down different paths, or just provide you with tools to alleviate some of the bottled up stress that you have within you.
Yep.
That takes a strong person to do that, because you're becoming vulnerable to a complete stranger, whether it's paid or whether it's not. Being able to be vulnerable in a room one-on-one with someone for an hour and a half, right? And you actually have like the steps. You literally walk into an office, and my therapist would literally sit down in front of me like this, and he would just stare at me. And if I didn't say anything, 1 or 2 minutes, because I'm still thinking, like, I'm hesitant, like, damn, I don't know what I want to tell him. I don't know about this. He'll look at me and be like, how's the relationship going? And then it's like, oh man, so like
I've been waiting for you to ask.
you know, because sometimes a problem that we have with communications, we don't know how to start it.
Voluntarily start
Yes.
that conversation.
Yeah.
And so to have an individual with an objective perspective guide you that way, then it just like, it releases. It's like taking a deep, like, sigh,
Yep.
you know, and, you know, then you just get into a conversation, then your therapist can pick out points where he sees like something is a little bit more heightened than something else. And then they could guide you down this path of things you need to just get off your chest.
Yeah, you'd be amazed. Once you start talking, you become a chatterbox. It's funny how one question can get you talking. You know, how's work? It's good. How's relationship? Oh my God, let me tell you. And then you start going into it, you know? Yeah, I agree 1,000%. As men in general, I think, but black men especially, I think it's very hard to be vulnerable because we are looked at to be so masculine, and be so rigid and so alpha as the terminology is today. There's no room for being vulnerable. When I was a kid growing up, my dad was a southern boy out of Danville, Virginia, and he was very reserved, very astute, very stoic. He was not a guy who cried easily. I think the only time I ever saw him cry was when his brother died. That was it. He made it clear to us with no uncertain words that, you know, men don't cry. Men have to be strong. So he was in the Army. So that couple that Southern upbringing along with military training. And we were raised to be very poised, very, you know, matter of fact, direct, emotionless, you know, control your emotions. That's how he was. And we emulated that. We were very good at being non-emotional. I mean, to this day, I get all the time, I'm very hard to read because my face does not always give those emotive keys, or I have a look on my face like I'm angry. My resting face looks angry. And it's not that, it's just the fact that I have a very stoic face. Once I open up to you and lighten up, then you get to see. But if I don't know you, then, you know, I'm looking at you like trying to assess the room to figure out what angle you coming from to see how I'm going to be with you. Waiting for you to show me whether or not you're someone I can relax around or someone I got to be on edge with. My point in all that to say is that being vulnerable is something that black boys aren't trained to do or taught to do. We are raised to be very masculine in this world where black folks getting choked out and killed and stuff like that. You know, you kids, these black men, black boys are being raised to be prepared for anything because you don't know what the world's going to send your way. That was true in my day as a young kid. I'm almost 50 now, and it's still something that the young kids need to be worrying about. I don't think there will ever be a day where black boys will be able to walk around comfortable feeling like they don't have a care or worry in the world. There will always be someone right behind over your shoulder you got to be careful about. Sad to say, but this is the world we live in.
You know, and with therapy, I mean, it allowed, you know, I like when you bottle up your stress, it starts with your shoulders. Then it works down your back, then it goes down your lower back. When I started doing therapy, I started alleviating a lot of those things. I thought, you know, I'd go to the chiropractor, start running more. It wasn't helping. Then when I started going to therapy and just like getting these bottled up emotions, these unanswered questions out, or just being able to communicate with someone aside from my friends.
Yeah.
A lot of those things start to disappear, you know?
Yeah. And I think as men, we have a natural tendency to be guarded.
Yep.
We're not the type that just come out and tell you things
What's
that we're
up?
struggling
Yeah.
with. And so we'll carry something for years. But I agree with Tim, and the majority of the I would say therapy sessions I've had have been with people I already have a relationship with. So whether it be my pastor, one of my mentors, they already have an understanding of me, my situation. I already see something in their situation that I aspired to have, whether it be a relationship or business success, etc. And so it's just a relief to be able to get things off your chest, because if you don't express it, it can't be healed.
Yeah.
That's
You
true.
walk around carrying you know,
A lot of baggage.
things-
That's true.
A lot of baggage, exactly.
Yep. When you start unpacking those bags, the healing can begin. But if you're willing to do the work, then you're going to see results. That's the other caveat that they haven't really talked about much about. And a lot of us are wandering around here trying to figure out relationships and how to find that person, and rather than focusing on, you know, becoming better. There's a quote that I saw recently where it said, instead of trying to find the right person, focus on becoming the right person. And that kind of resonated with me a great deal. Becoming your best self will attract someone who's on that same journey and who is their best self. I applaud these brothers for having this conversation. This is one of these topics that I feel like needs to be discussed a lot more than it is. It's discussed quietly in situations like this, but it's not an open forum where it should be. I definitely encourage those out there who feel like they could need someone to talk to, find a therapist. Look it up. You got healthcare. There's telehealth, all kind of stuff nowadays. Behavioral health is a thing, and it is valuable. But again, you have to go through, do the work, and find out who is the best therapist for you. So anyway, thanks again for checking out the video. I hope that the information that we talked about today was very helpful to you. If so, please leave a like. Help us with the channel growth. And if you know someone who could benefit from the discussion that we had today, please share this video with them. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Remember, change your mindset, change your life. Stay blessed.